You're listening to The Luxury Item, the podcast on the business of luxury and the people and companies that are shaping the future of the luxury industry. Here's your host, Scott Kerr.
Panerai, a renowned Italian luxury watch brand, has been synonymous with high-quality timepieces and precision engineering since its inception in 1860. Founded by Giovanni Panerai, the company initially specialized in crafting precision instruments for the Italian Navy, earning a reputation for its exceptional craftsmanship and attention to detail. In the 1990s, the brand made a strategic move to enter the civilian market. This decision marked a new era for Panerai, as its timepieces gained popularity among watch enthusiasts and collectors worldwide. In 1997, the Richemont Group acquired Panerai. Over the years, Panerai has evolved to become a global leader in the luxury watch industry, known for its distinctive designs, innovative materials, and exceptional performance. My guest on The Luxury Item is Jean-Marc Pontroué, CEO of Panerai. Recognized for his strategic vision, passion for product, and multifaceted commercial experience, Jean-Marc Pontroué has been at the helm of Panerai since 2018. A luxury industry veteran, he started his career at Givenchy with the LVMH Group. He joined the Richemont Group in 2000, leading product strategy at Montblanc, before being elevated to CEO at Swiss luxury watchmaker Roger Dubuis. After 6 years, Jean-Marc Pontroué was named the CEO of Panerai. Welcome to The Luxury Item, Jean-Marc.
Hi, Scott. A great pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. You know, Panerai is one of those distinct and immediately recognizable brands and has become popular with the most discerning watch enthusiasts. And Panerai's deep-rooted connection to sailing, the sea, and the military are an essential part of the brand's DNA that dates back to its origins in the mid-1800s. Can you talk a little bit about Panerai's historical ties to maritime and how it has influenced its design and philosophy?
As you say, rightfully, Panerai's origin are, I would say, three things. Number one, military. Number two, maritime. Number three, Italy. And that has created the foundations of all our storytelling within the brand. And that has influenced a lot all what has been done around the brand since 1860, bringing some innovations in terms of materials or calibers or water resistance, a level on many of our watches which are above the rest of the standard in that industry. So in the past, it was very important. It remains today. The maritime influence of the origin of the brand still something very critical. And I know that you have a couple of issues afterwards regarding our partnerships, which we got with the America's Cup, and that is all associated to what we are doing at Panerai. What type of maritime influence it can get to our brand when it comes to product development and marketing initiatives.
And Panerai had built this incredible reputation, and its watches were exclusively available only to military and professional users. It really didn't reach a wider audience until, I think, 1993, when it made it a strategic move to enter the civilian market. What were the first civilian collections like, and how did the public take to those collections?
So the story of Panerai, even though we were not doing watches in 1860, has a lot of what we call the key dates of the brand, which in some of our stores around the world, you have this timeline which are highlighting some of our key dates. Mm-hmm. In 1935, it's a very important milestone for the brand because this is where we have the very first prototype of the very first Panerai watch, which at that time was a radiomir. Then in 1938, we had the supply of the very first radiomir called, and it's a well-known code in our company, which is called 2533, which is the radiomir with no numbers, just the button indexes. In 1955, we had the patent for the protecting crown, which is today one of the signature the aesthetic signature of the brand. In 1956, the Egiziano, which was creating the benchmark for the sports watches, which became afterwards the Luminor on the submersible. And in 2002, we were very lucky to have our first in-house caliber called the P2002. So all these elements have paved what you are mentioning here is that from our military on diving origins, growing the brand towards a wider audience, which of course has been accelerated after 1993 when it was the opening of what we call the Pré-Vendôme era in Panerai. Yeah. And then in 1997, when Richemont acquired the brand, and then we had the support of a big group in terms of infrastructure, finance, research and development, distribution, and you name it.
And I know Panerai is a favorite among Hollywood action stars like Dwayne Johnson, Bruce Willis, Jason Statham, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Sylvester Stallone. In fact, Stallone and Schwarzenegger were catalysts of Panerai's transformation and explosive popularity in the mid-1990s, the watches making cameos on his wrist in some of their big action flicks and promoting the brand in Hollywood circles and the red carpet and things like that. And some say it actually kicked off the whole watch industry's sizing norms. Well, no doubt Stallone's endorsement quickly drove demand for the Panerai brand. Did it in any way hinder you telling the brand's broader story to customers?
Well, it's an interesting point. It's true that Panerai, in what you are mentioning, has been probably the brand in the end of the 90s, which has broken the codes of sizing standards. Mm-hmm. And at a time where a 40 millimeter was probably already the beginning of big watches, Panerai came with 44 and 47, and that was really the way Panerai has started to exist in the watch industry as a very differentiating element compared to the other brands. We are still proud today to have many celebrities in Hollywood who are wearing our products, but it's true that Sylvester Stallone was probably with Schwarzenegger the very first ones who were the ones, because they came to Italy, also the one promoting the brand in the US. It hasn't avoided us to also promote the other aspects of the brand, and especially all his heritage, all his manufacturing competence, all the fact we are developing tough instruments for sports activities, especially sailing activities. And so when you enter in one of our stores, or if you go to our website today, we are trying to develop many stories around the brand. And for sure, the heritage, showing that Panerai is a brand which exists since many decades with many premières. The sandwich dial is one of them. The luminosity is another one. The water resistance, the shaped cases we can have in our watches. You mentioned the big cases. The variety of straps you can have. So you have many elements which makes a Panerai so different from many other watch in the watch industry. Normally, if you go to our stores, you are able to get these different environments from the message we are saying in our boutiques.
And did Stallone auction off at Sotheby's, I think it was this last summer or 2 summers ago, some key Panerai pieces from his collection?
Yes. Well, he still has a lot in his collection.
Yeah.
He sold one of his emblematic timepieces because it was one of the very first one he had. He got a great price out of that. And for us, it's always a pride to see that because he's keeping Panerai close to his heart. But it's interesting to see the value that these pieces can get, supported by, of course, Stallone and the auction house, who did a great job in promoting this timepiece. And it shows that Panerai can get value over time on these type of specific timepieces.
And as you were mentioning before, the Richemont Group acquired Panerai in 1997, and that was a major turning point for the brand. This partnership provided Panerai with the resources and expertise needed to further make a dent in the luxury watch market. How did it change the way the Panerai brand was marketed?
Well, we were switching from a very family-owned business, to a group which has the magnitude of being today the second largest luxury group in the world, and one of the big one in terms of luxury watches segment. So it has given us a lot of advantages, as I was mentioning to you, all what customers don't necessarily see, but which are all what is HR, talents, organization, distribution, subsidiaries, access to many informations which help a brand to grow faster than the rest of the competition. I don't mention research and development competences, quality standards, IT, security. And for Panerai, it was learning a little bit what was happening outside Italy. Of course, I exaggerate, Scott, when I tell you that, because the brand was already exporting some pieces outside Italy. But it was really the chance we had with Richemont to get access to all the rest of the world. And having got a lot of information, intelligence from this group about what's happening in the luxury world has helped Panerai a lot to be developed in the US, to be developed in the rest of Europe, and of course, a lot in Asia. And we probably don't realize how big the support is from a group. For example, if I take one example, the Lab ID approach, where Panerai, for the ones of you who don't know the Lab ID, is trying to develop concepts which have to give the time, but they are associated to patented principles, which are by definition new in the watch industry. Mm-hmm. And Panerai has launched last year the Elux, which is the fourth Lab ID we're having without the support of a group like Richemont. Launching this type of spectacular new concepts is challenging because of the cost, because of the time, because of the number of people who are spending energy and creativity on these concepts, which are not necessarily something you can afford in many other brands. And Richemont has allowed us, like all the other brands that Richemont is hosting, to get extra resources to be able to bring these concepts.
And Richemont eventually moved production from the Florence workshop to a new manufacturer in Switzerland. Was the move just about consolidating the watch operations in one country?
Well, we all know that if you want to produce high-end watches, the Swiss made is not only a signature of seriousness, it's also where you find the talents. You know that probably, and I'm always proud to say that Switzerland is the only, or watches is the only category in the world where luxury is made in only one country, which is Switzerland. If you take all the other luxury products, you normally have 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 different countries producing around the world. Here in watches, of course, I include also Germany with our friends of Lange und Söhne, but it's very concentrated on Switzerland. So when my predecessor had to choose a location, Switzerland was a natural choice because this is where the talents were based. This is where the suppliers were based. And it makes the organization much more smooth, efficient if you are producing, in addition to get this signature of Swiss made. So we had our first manufacturer in 2002 in Neuchâtel, which has been then transferred in 2014 in the existing location because it was too small in the very first one. I don't think that my predecessor anticipated the development of the brand at that speed. And today we are proud to have on the heights of Neuchâtel a beautiful manufacturer. Or you can say to all the people who are listening to us that this manufacturer is open to public, that you can, as long as you pre-register yourself before, you can visit the location where all the timepieces of Panerai are assembled, and you can see yourself all the journey of a Panerai product development from the beginning, from research and development, from assembly, from prototyping, on our beloved crash test where we drop our Panerai at 1 meter high, where you can test and check that the Panerai movement and the case are still resisting despite of the magnitude of the shock.
Did the move from Florence to Switzerland ruffle any feathers in the watch community and among enthusiasts?
Well, you know, it's I think that first we kept and we even enlarged our existing store in Florence.
Right.
So the Florence boutique today remain number one, our biggest store in the world in terms of traffic and business. Second, the origin of the brand. Third, the only boutique which has this architecture, because we didn't change the original boutique. We have enlarged it, but we kept the original one. So if you really want to smell the Panerai spirit, Florence remained the ultimate destination. I don't remember how people reacted at that time, but I think that the communities of watch lovers did understand that in addition to Florence, we were needing to get a Swiss-made larger production capacity, and that's why we chose Switzerland at the time.
And the Panerai product portfolio consists of four main collections: Luminor, Luminor Due, Radiomir, and Submersible. While it's not the most extensive in the world of watches, the brand seems to go all in when it comes to experimenting with new materials, finishes, innovation, and advanced watchmaking techniques. Is that approach by design?
So when we look at our portfolio, we probably have one of the smallest assortment among the top 20 watch brands in the world. The assortment of Panerai is more or less 120 SKUs in our assortment, split, as you rightfully mentioned, four product categories. Luminor remains the key story. It's representing always the highest share of bestsellers among all the markets where we are distributed around the world. That stands for the original Panerai product, with a lot of Italian flair, a lot of differentiation compared to what exists in the rest of the industry. The Due collection was developed afterwards, allowing smaller wrists to wear Panerai watches, as this family is available only in 38 on 42 millimeter. Then you have the Radiomir, as I was mentioning to you at the beginning of our discussion, which was the very first collection of Panerai. This is the only one which doesn't have the protecting crown system. And that is very much for the collectors. Provided that for Luminor, this is the category for which we have the highest number of newcomers to the brand. If someone wants to start its collection of Panerai, very often he enters our brand through the Luminor collection. Radiomir, for collectors, for people who are more in the traditions, in the complications, that is the category for Radiomir. And then we have Submersible, that has been launched a couple of years ago, which is a standalone family, on which stands for all the sports, performance, bigger cases, new materials like Carbotech, BMG, T-Ceramitech. All the new materials are very often associated to Submersible, as long as it brings added value for people who love sports. So we don't develop only new material for the pleasure of being innovative. It has to get an added value in your sports or sailing activities.
And you can spot a Panerai right away thanks to details such as the sandwich dial, the safety lock system on the crown, and the bold shapes of its timepieces, a very hyper-masculine yet chic design language that's become synonymous with the brand. It seems like Panerai produces a particular kind of watch for a particular kind of person and mindset. How would you describe the average Panerai customer and that mindset that draws them to your brand?
You know, it's an interesting question, because I'm very lucky to meet often customers of our brand, Paneristi, collectors, people who are new to the brand. So I love to be exposed in a store or in a special event to all these people who are discovering the brand or who know the brand better than me, like it exists very often when you meet with some Paneristi. Mm-hmm. As a common denominator for all these people, you find a very strong masculine, self-confident, assertive, brave person with charisma. And we often say that our time instruments are solid instruments. Our origin is military. When you work in the military industry, you are not here to make fashion products. You are here to make solid, trustful, readable instruments, which also can be worn by people like you and me, who are working probably more in offices than on military fields. Mm-hmm. So the type of customers we have are people who are self-confident enough to choose a brand which is not part of the top 3 ones in the world. So they are happy to show a product that not everybody has, that they know. On provided, as you say rightfully, it's easy to recognize a Panerai. It's very interesting when you see another person wearing a Panerai, because they know you know. Right. You know what type of brand they have. And it creates a lot of connection. I'm proud to always use this claim that a former telephone company was using in the past, which is connecting people. And Panerai instruments are connecting people. I have been stopped 100 times in hotels, restaurants, planes by people wearing also another Panerai and looking at me and say, how do you start your story with Panerai? And then you create instantly a discussion which can take years about how people enter the Panerai journey. And that is a very emotional moment when people start to speak about their entry in the Panerai world. And to be back to your question, you find a common denominator among all these people, brave enough to test something which is not necessarily known by everybody.
Are you finding more women coming into the brand?
Yes, it's interesting. The first thing is that when we are working with collectors, when we are working with a Paneristi, very often their partners, their wife, are interested to understand why their husband are so interested by this brand. It has happened to me very often to hear a woman telling me, well, they have been stealing a couple of times the watch of their husband. And that's why we brought the last couple of years a certain number of smaller sizes compared to a 44 and 47 towards 40 and towards 38 millimeter, allowing also women to find a selection of products more suitable for them. We don't do quartz. We don't do smaller cases than the 38 millimeter. All our watches are automatic. So you would still find this duplicity of a Panerai watch. You still find this masculinity. You still find a water resistance, which are part of all the attributes of our watches, but treated for a customership which is more women. And I'm very proud to see a growing number of women wearing our products today.
And you were just talking about the Paneristi community, really quite a robust collector community. It's one of the largest and strongest of its kind. They've been around for more than 2 decades. While these kinds of brand-centric enthusiast communities operate entirely independently from the brands they love, Panerai has actually embraced this group. What are the benefits of engaging with your passionate followers?
So first, if you have never been part of the Paneristi community, I strongly invite the people who hear us and who love to be part of that to discover what it means. I had my very first contact with the Paneristi community when I joined the company, and for sure in Hong Kong when they did their P-Day. For the ones who don't know necessarily all the details of this community, the Paneristi community is about 30,000 members in the world. We have celebrated this year in 25. We will celebrate, the 25th anniversary of the Paneristi community on each year. And they have local organization. So first, it's a community we don't manage ourselves. It's a community which lives by the people who are the biggest fan of the brand in the world. They exist in something like 25 different countries. The biggest communities in the world are in the US, in Italy, in Germany, in Japan, in Hong Kong, in Singapore. And they organize beyond the regular meetings they have during the year. They organize once a year what they call a P-Day, which is a 3 days gathering where you have in one city about 250 people who are meeting from all over the world on exchanging their experience of Panerai. And I have the great honor to host them for one of the 3 evenings during that P-Day and exchanging with them and presenting to them what are the big plans of the brand for the next 365 days. And it's for me, beyond being a very enriching event, a very emotional moment I'm spending with all of them. First, because they know the brand. I mean, all of them know the brand better than anybody at Panerai. Second, because they come with very interesting ideas and suggestions. I never forget it's their brand. We are sharing together a passion at different levels, but they are doing that in the interest of the brand. And when I see the number of the resources they've been spending on this brand, the time, the energy, the creativity, the envy to make Panerai one of the leading brands in the world. Panerai would not be where we are today without the community of the Paneristi. So it's a very insightful moment when I spend time with the Paneristi. They have a claim, which I'm very jealous because it's one of the nicest claims you can find in the watch industry. They say Paneristi, so much more than just a watch. And when you see these people exchanging themselves on from different countries, different ages, different starting point in their journey with Panerai, it's a moment which is very fascinating.
Late in 2023, Deloitte conducted its Swiss watch study and asked the watch industry executives what their priorities were for 2024. Topping the list, close to 75% said it was introducing new products, followed by strengthening the omnichannel strategy, organic growth, and invest in sustainability. Looking back in 2024, how did that sync with your priorities for Panerai?
Well, I think that all these priorities have been extremely valid for 24, remains extremely valid for 25. But beyond bringing or introducing new products, I think that the customers have changed a lot the last couple of years. On the speed behind new products is not necessarily something that they are after today. The creativity is more important. Mm-hmm. Bringing new SKUs is easy. Bringing recognized creativity is much more challenging. And creativity is not only in products, in materials, in caliber. It is for me very much in customer experience. At Panerai, what we try to do since a couple of years is how we understand better the type of customers entering in our boutiques. We mentioned the Paneristi story, where you don't need to explain the brand history to a Paneristi. We have different profile of customers entering in our stores, and we are spending a lot of energy in all over the world on with different maturity in markets, because some markets are new to the brand, some markets are historical to the brand, so we don't have the same level of knowledge on brand awareness per market or per city, and we spend a lot of time with this agility to better understand all the people who are entering every day in one of our 200 boutiques in the world, how we can speak to them in a non-standardized approach with our heart, being interested really by what they are looking for, their budget, their taste, their envy to is it an occasion, is it for them, is it for what is the purpose of entering a Panerai boutique. Right. And that is something which occupies us a lot, because all what you have said about sustainability, growth, new products, that is our daily work anyway. What do you bring to the business model, which is becoming more and more complex every day with different markets, trends, to be able to enrich the customer experience, which is one of the key stories for the years to come.
To stay true to its maritime roots, Panerai has been involved in the America's Cup sailing since 2017 and has been the official sponsor of the Lunna Rossa Prada Pirelli sailing team since 2019. The America's Cup is not only one of the world's oldest international sporting trophies, but it's also arguably the most prestigious sailing competition. Why has Panerai been drawn to a relatively niche sport like the America's Cup, and what are the shared values?
So, first of all, you know, when you mentioned that it's America's Cup is a niche sport, it's 1 billion viewers, and it's one of the top 5 sports competition followed in the world. After the Football World Cup, after the Olympic Games, after the Tour de France, after the Rugby Cup, the America's Cup is one of the most followed up events in sports in the world. To give you an example, which I didn't know before preparing the America's Cup a couple of years ago, in Barcelona last year, 2 million people came to the city during the 6 weeks of the competition just for the America's Cup. So at the end of the day, not all the cities can host an America's Cup because of the magnitude of the attendance, because of all the media coverage of the story, because of the infrastructure of all the teams. So it's a big machine, the America's Cup. And when we enter, oh, it's not me, by the way, it's my predecessor who started that operation with different teams. When I joined the company, for me, it was making sense to continue the America's Cup, but with the Italian team. And I don't need to explain you why we choose the Italians. It makes sense for us
Yeah.
participating to the America's Cup that the Italians is basically the team to support. We found a very interesting team, and starting with the captain of this operation, which is Max Sirena, which is a legend in the world of the America's Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And this gentleman came in 2018. We got a very short meeting to say that we want to work together. It's a question of people, first of all. And the partners at that time, and are still today, are Prada, on Pirelli, on Panerai, who has a big operation in Milano, with design, product development, digital, you name it. We were all in Milan to try to develop this sense of accelerating the presence on the efficiency of that team. Something not to forget, Lunna Rossa is a brand. It's a team, first of all. It's a country, Italy, but it's also a brand, which is, we speak about the others by their nationality. We don't mention very often the Italian team. We speak about Lunna Rossa, and everybody knows it's Italian, and everybody knows it's a succession of different great concepts in terms of products developed also on the other side by Prada. So for us, it was a way to enter a chapter of our brand in terms of sponsorship, number one. Number two, exchange in materials. When you visit Cagliari, where they have their manufacture, you discover a world of developments of new materials to gain 1 second, being lighter, being faster, which basically is what we do on a smaller scale and a smaller volume of products for our watches. So it was very interesting that our watchmakers meet with their engineers and vice versa to be able to identify some new materials, new methods, new approach in having a development product which have a relevance within the assortment of Lunna Rossa. And finally, it was about experience. We took, and I know you're going to speak probably more about that after, but it was a chance for us to associate some of our best customers around the world to share the life of the America's Cup team, Lunna Rossa, during their preparation in Cagliari, in Sardinia, or during the race in Barcelona, in Spain. So there are many reasons why we work with them: sponsorship, research and development, customer experience, and the beauty to work with the Prada team, which are very involved in making it a success.
And could you talk about the Lunna Rossa collection from the most recent 37th America's Cup?
Well, it was all the key highlights, Scott, of the Watches and Wonders 2024 in Geneva, where we reveal 6 SKUs, a new material, which was a T-Ceramidec which is exclusive to Panerai, and the Experience series, which is a tourbillon hosted in a submersible model. And that was a big highlight on communication focus at the last Watches and Wonders. And that has been a great success. Beyond the fact that you are participating in the race, it's also a way to tell the Panerai story about Italy, and about sports, and about sailing.
And Panerai also forged an exclusive partnership with the United States Navy SEALs in 2022 on a collection of special watches. So how does one go about engaging with the Navy SEALs on a collaboration?
Well, it took us a couple of years, because when you work with military teams, the biggest problem is that you don't have any telephone number where you can call.
Right. I'm saying everything's in secret, right?
Exactly. So we started first by the Marina Militare many years ago. As you know, we are supplier of timepieces to the Marina Militare. And the beauty that the Marina Militare in Italy are having exchange program with other military forces in the world, among which Navy SEALs. So Italians go to America, and Americans are also coming to Italy. And when we first wanted to expand outside Italy, We got Americans who discovered these timepieces on the wrist of many Italian Marines. And this has been the beginning of the story. Then we have been in touch with the veterans of the Navy SEALs, with which we started to develop contacts. And then we were able to find the right contacts to be able to develop this partnership. Today, it's a series we have since now 3 years. Works very well. It is not one of the story we want to insist in the future, but it just highlights the fact that Panerai, with other forces, military forces in the world, is supplier of timepieces. Some of them we cannot mention them because we are obliged by contract not to mention their name. On some we can speak about, like it is the case for the Marine Military, like it has been for the anti-terrorist forces in France, like it is for the Navy SEALs in America. And it gives, it just strengthens the fact that the mission of Panerai originally was, as I was mentioning to you, the world of the sea, as well as the military origins of the brand.
And Panerai's brand heritage and storytelling have been at the heart of its marketing strategy. In 2020, Panerai brought this to life, launching extreme watch experiences for its VIP customers. You know, I was reading previous trips have included a free diving expedition in French Polynesia with the record-setting free diver, a hardcore training experience with the Royal Italian Navy in Italy, an Arctic adventure with the famous explorer, Panerai brand ambassador Mike Horn. Each one of these unique experiences is tied to a limited edition Panerai watch, all with the goal of getting closer to the brand and creating memories with their timepieces. So who gets invited to these once-in-a-lifetime adventures?
The principle which you described very well is basically something we launched in 2019. And it happens to me in a dinner when I was close to one of these people who know, as I was mentioning, Panerai better than anybody at Panerai. They had been to Florence, they had been to our manufacturer in Neuchâtel, they had been to many of our stores around the world. How we could surprise them. And the idea was to be back to the origin of the brand, a supplier of the Italian Navy. And our story was to develop at that time a limited edition of 33 pieces, if I well remember, which you can get only if you also participate to a 3-day training camp with the Marine Military. So in the quotation that we gave for this limited edition, will have the watch as a trophy of your 3 days experience with the Marine Military. We come to catch you. So I know you live in the US in New York City. We come to catch you where you live. Mm-hmm. We bring you to the airport of New York. We bring you to the middle of Italy because it's in La Spezia, close to and the north of Rome. You spend 3 days with us, and we bring you back to New York. In the quotation we gave you, that includes the experience, New York to New York, and that includes the timepiece. We did about 15 of these experiences so far because we do about 2 to 3 every year. Mm-hmm. And we have 3 types of experiences. You have the, let's say, easy ones, which are discovering facets of Italy. We did Florence, we did Rome. I'm proud to announce you that's a premiere that we do Taormina in Sicily next year. This year in 2025. That is the easy one. This is where you can relax, enjoying the Dolce Vita of the country, which has seen the birth of Panerai. Then you have the one which are adventure on expedition. You mentioned that here. It is about the diving with the world champion in freediving in Tahiti, in the French Polynesia. We go in next month with Mike Horn in Bhutan, where people will climb a couple of thousands of meters to visit a new culture. And then we have the military experiences, where here we better make sure we select customers who are fit enough to be part of 3 days follow-up of the best military forces in the world, where we send you 6 months before a training program. On this experience program at Panerai is mobilizing 3 people full-time in Milan to prepare what will be the next program of experiences for the next 3 years, based on these 3 potential Italy, adventure, and military. And that brings a lot of new community to our brand. People who love to be associated to things where normally you cannot buy them in any travel agency. Because when we bring you, like in Bhutan, where we are going to bring customers, there are many areas where you cannot go alone.
Are you looking to expand the program?
Well, for the time being, I can tell you it takes a lot of energy and resources to build it. Because you need to find an interesting product concept, and need to find an interesting program of the experience. And I can tell you the program of experience takes probably more time to develop than the watch itself. The watch, we know our job. When it comes to experience, we depend a lot on different other partners. But yes, it's something where we see a lot of appetite of our high-end customers to be part of this unique experiences around the world. And that is one of the, when you are mentioning one of your preceding questions about what are the big priorities for the brand in 2024 and in the future for Panerai, developing our differentiation, not only by product creativity, but also by customer experience. What we do with this program is something we want to highlight because this is very unique to the Panerai world.
So much of Panerai's legacy leans heavily into its maritime heritage and Italian craftsmanship, which we've been talking about. So how does that carry through to your retail strategy in its boutiques and the customer experience?
When we developed the new retail concept a couple of years ago, the idea was to make people discovering not only watches, but all the stories at Panerai: military, sailing, competition, vintage, when we launched the first Radiomir in 1935, and you name it. So for us, the biggest compliment we can have when you enter and you leave a Panerai store, did you learn something you didn't know before? What type of hidden stories of the brand you discovered and you didn't know? So we try in our boutiques, even though some of them are not the biggest ones, to make customers not enjoying new products, but also the brand storytelling. And when you see our boutiques, in which I was this morning again in Geneva, where we have the Laboratorio di Idee. You know, Panerai stands very often for Laboratorio di Idee, a brand which has brought new ideas. And we try to show what are the new materials. What means BMG, what means Carbotech, what means T-Ceramithèque, what are the advantage for customers to buy these new materials. So our retail is here to stage, to theatralize all the innovation and development of the brand, all the new ideas we have, all the heritage we have, on how we can make it accessible for all the customers entering our stores, whatever they know where the brand or they are new to the brand.
So, Jean-Marc, my final question is the luxury item question, which I ask all my guests. So if you were stranded on a deserted island and you could only have one single luxury item with you, what would that luxury item be? It can't be any form of air or water transportation, so you can't call your friends at the Navy SEALs or the Lunna Rossa team to pick you up. Or anything that requires mobile service, so you can call somebody to pick you up. It's just you on this deserted island all by yourself with palm trees, sand, shells, hermit crabs, and just lots of ocean. What would the one single luxury item you would like to have with you?
Let me change the rule of your story by having two of them. One would be a picture.
Always breaking the rules, huh, Jean-Marc?
We are part of Panerai. One would be a picture of my family to give me an emotion and hope. Mm-hmm. And the second one would be a magnum of champagne, as I'm a big fan of champagne, and that would give me joy and hope that one day someone will see that can bring me out of this deserted island that you were mentioning.
Good answers. I let you slide on this one. Jean-Marc Pontroué, CEO of Panerai, thank you so much for joining me on The Luxury Item.
Thank you, Scott.
That's it for this episode of the Luxury Item Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this useful and entertaining, I would be really grateful if you can share it with a friend or colleague. I would love it if you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And while you're there, be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It really helps other listeners find us. The Luxury Item Podcast is a production of Silvertone Consulting. I'm your host, Scott Kerr. Until next time.